Visitors to Amsterdam are often struck by the tall, narrow buildings that line the canals. These waterways twist and turn like a labyrinth, giving the city its famous charm. Walking through streets like Lindenstraat, Keizersgracht and Damstraat, tourists feel the history in every brick. But if you explore the eastern districts, the street names are different. Here names like Balistraat, Sumatrastraat, and Borneostraat hint at a faraway past, connected to the Dutch East Indies. The Dutch East Indies refers to what is now Indonesia, a group of islands thousands of miles from Europe. The Netherlands ruled these islands for centuries, beginning with the Dutch East India Company. This company started over 400 years ago and quickly became the richest in the world. Unlike modern corporations, it had quasi-governmental powers. It could wage war, negotiate treaties, imprison and execute convicts, mint coins, and establish colonies. The Dutch East India Company is often considered the first multinational corporation in history. It created a model for global business that is still relevant today. Dutch merchants were motivated by the enormous profits available from trading spices. These spices, nutmeg, cloves, pepper, were highly valuable in Europe. The journey to obtain them was long and dangerous, spanning thousands of miles by sea. Before Amsterdam became a major trade center in the 17th century, Bruges and Antwerp were the main hubs. Merchants from all over Europe gathered there, learning about global trade. The Portuguese had pioneered long-distance trade in the 1500s, establishing posts across Asia. They controlled the flow of spices to Europe. This monopoly made them extremely wealthy and powerful. At the time, the Netherlands, along with present-day Belgium and Luxembourg, was under Spanish rule. Spain was in a dynastic union with Portugal, forming part of the Habsburg Empire. The Dutch, however, were increasingly dissatisfied. Religion played a key role. The Dutch had become Protestant, while the Spanish rulers were staunchly Catholic. Tensions eventually erupted into the Dutch Revolt in 1566. By 1591, the Portuguese were diverting trade away from Dutch ports like Antwerp. Instead, shipments were directed to Hamburg in Germany. This harmed the Dutch economy and disrupted European spice supplies. Prices for spices soared, making the market even more competitive. The Dutch realized that they needed to challenge Portuguese dominance directly. Dutch merchants decided to enter the spice trade themselves. Despite not knowing the exact routes, the Portuguese guarded navigational knowledge closely. The Dutch worked in secret to obtain maps and confirm routes to the Spice Islands. In 1595, the first Dutch fleet of 4 ships set sail under Cornelis de. Their goal was Banten, the main pepper port on Java. The expedition faced immediate difficulties upon arrival. The Portuguese were still present in the region, and local Javanese rulers were cautious of the newcomers. Half the crew died from disease and conflict. Despite these challenges, the fleet returned home in 1596 with enough cargo to make a profit. Their journey proved the spice trade was feasible for the Dutch. 2 years later, in 1598, another fleet led by Jacob van Neck reached the Maluku Islands. These islands were the source of nutmeg and cloves, allowing the Dutch to bypass intermediaries in Java. Between 1599 and 1600, their ships returned to Europe with a staggering 400% profit. Investors realized the enormous potential of trading in Asia. Investing in these voyages was risky. Pirates, disease, and storms could destroy ships and crews. Losing a single expedition meant losing an investor's entire contribution. To reduce risk, Dutch merchants pooled their resources. Multiple voyages could be funded simultaneously, ensuring that some would succeed even if others failed. This system of joint investment was already in use by the English East India Company. Inspired by their success, the Dutch formed the United East India Company in 1602. Known as the VOC, it became a permanent organization. Its first trading post was established in Banten in 1603. Another post followed in 1611 in what is now Jakarta, which became Batavia, the VOC's Asian headquarters. The VOC was governed by 17 principal shareholders in the Netherlands. Although the Governor-General had authority in Asia, the board in the Netherlands controlled the company. Conflicts with other European powers were inevitable. The Portuguese remained a presence in the region, and the English East India Company had its own trading posts. Tensions eventually erupted into violence. In 1623, VOC officials on Ambon Island tortured and executed 21 men. 10 of whom were English. This was because the Dutch suspected them of planning to seize the post. The incident caused a diplomatic crisis and worsened Anglo-Dutch relations.